Evening slowly spread its darkness across the village's dusty streets. The last golden rays of the sun were fading from the sky, while a cold breeze slipped between the mud houses. Inside a small, poor room, several little children sat quietly. Their eyes were swollen from hunger, and their dry lips trembled weakly. One child whispered in a fragile voice, "Mother, please give us something to eat. I'm so hungry." The mother's heart shattered. She looked at the pale faces of her children, but there was nothing in the house. No flour, no oil, no sugar, not even enough sugar for tea. Slowly, she turned toward her husband, who sat lost in his phone. He did not hear the cries of the children, nor did he care about the condition of the house. In a soft, broken voice, the woman said, "If possible, please bring just 2 eggs. The children are starving." Without even lifting his eyes from the phone, the man replied coldly, "Feed them with your tears. I'm not bringing eggs." The woman looked back at her crying children. Her heart broke even more. They are only children. They haven't eaten all day. But before she could finish her sentence, the man suddenly exploded with rage. In anger, he hurled the phone at her head. Thud! A scream burst from the woman's lips. Her head split open. Blood streamed down her face. The children cried in terror. One little child clung to his mother's clothes, screaming, "Mother! Mother!" But the man had become like a wild beast. He stood up, grabbed the woman by her hair, and dragged her across the dirt floor. The woman screamed in pain, but not a single drop of mercy remained in his heart. The other women in the house rushed forward. They tried to save the helpless mother from him, but his anger only grew worse. Suddenly, he wrapped both hands around her neck. The woman could barely breathe. Her vision darkened. At that very moment, the man's younger brother arrived. He rushed forward, pulled his brother away, and freed the woman. In shock and fury, he shouted, "Brother, what are you doing? Are you human or a beast?" But the older brother kept screaming in rage, "Get this woman out of my sight." The younger brother realized that if she stayed there tonight, she might not survive. So he had no choice. He took his wounded sister-in-law, along with her terrified children, to the small home of her widowed mother. That night, a mother lay beside her children, covered in blood, and only one question echoed endlessly inside her heart. Was asking for 2 eggs really such a terrible crime? The night felt endless. The small, old house of the widow was drowning in silence and sorrow. In the middle of the dim room, the frightened children sat beside an old lantern. Whenever their eyes fell upon their mother's wounded head, they became quiet, as if fear itself had become heavier than tears. Their mother lay in pain upon an old mattress. Her head was bandaged, but blood still slowly seeped through the cloth. Her widowed mother sat beside her. Her white hair trembled, and her eyes overflowed with tears. Holding her daughter's hand, she whispered in a broken voice, "My daughter, be patient. Allah is great." But the woman only looked at her children who had gone to sleep hungry. The next morning, the old widow went from house to house in the village. Some people never opened their doors. Some said, "We have nothing ourselves." Others simply turned their faces away. Finally, one elderly woman took pity on them and lent her 100 Afghanis. The widow held those 100 Afghanis like a priceless treasure. With trembling steps, she took her wounded daughter to a doctor. The doctor was shocked when he saw her condition. Bruises covered her face. Her hands were dark blue from violence, and the wound on her head was still fresh. Sadly, the doctor murmured, "Is this man a husband or an enemy?" The woman lowered her eyes. She did not want to speak badly about her husband. The doctor gently said, "Sister, don't worry. I will treat you for free." Tears filled the woman's eyes. In a faint, painful voice, she whispered, "It has been 2 days. He hasn't even asked about me. Not once." She paused for a moment. Then, with a shattered heart, she added, "People say he has divorced me." Silence filled the room. Only the sound of the children coughing could be heard. The woman wiped her tears and said softly, "I can endure every hardship, but please don't let anyone take my children away from me." The doctor lowered his head, because there is no pain greater than a mother's fear of losing her children. At that very moment, the clinic door suddenly opened. A man walked inside. When the woman lifted her eyes, her heart nearly stopped. It was him, the same husband, the same man who had destroyed his wife's life over 2 eggs. The quiet clinic room suddenly fell into deeper silence as the door creaked open. Everyone turned toward the entrance. The man stepped inside. The same husband. The woman's eyes met his, and her whole body turned cold. For a few moments, no one spoke. Only the ticking of the wall clock could be heard. The man slowly walked forward, but his eyes remained lowered. The anger was gone. The pride was gone. The doctor spoke sharply. "Who are you? And why are you here?" The man took a trembling breath. I am her husband." The room grew even heavier with silence. The woman lowered her eyes again, while tears rolled quietly down her cheeks. The man stood still for a few seconds. Then, in a broken voice, he said, "I came to ask for forgiveness." Those words struck the room like thunder. The man who had destroyed his wife's life in rage yesterday had come today begging for mercy. But the woman's heart, that broken heart, that heart which had witnessed her children crying in terror, was now silent. Slowly, the man continued, "Yesterday, I lost control. I didn't know what I was doing. I deeply regret everything." He looked toward his children. The children hid behind each other, staring at him in fear. The man broke down even more. "I only want my home, my children back." The woman slowly lifted her head. Her eyes were red from pain and tears, yet her voice remained calm. "The moment you raise your hand against us, the moment a mother's head is broken over 2 eggs, that moment a home no longer remains a home." Silence returned to the room. The doctor stepped back quietly, saying nothing. The man lowered his head, tears falling down his face. Suddenly, the younger brother spoke. "Brother, you have lost everything." The man remained silent. The woman looked at her children, then softly said, "I cannot return to you anymore." The man trembled, but he had no answer. Slowly, he stepped backward, opened the door, and walked away. Outside, the air was cold, but the emptiness inside him was colder. He left, but a mother's pain, a child's fear, and the cruelty of that terrible night remained there forever. The end.